So awesome. Excellent. Way to get everything. Hi. So glad you're here. Welcome to the first annual Brinson Honors College Leadership Pinning Ceremony. On behalf of the Brinson Honors College staff, we are so very happy that you could join us for this very special event, either in person or on video. Hi, all moms and dads, and Jacob Lohman. So I'd like to give you the long history of this leadership pinning ceremony tradition, which is, we just started it. Long story short, we just made it up. Why? Well, because it's very needed. The answer is simple in that the Brinson Honors College is a community of students, 1,265 students the last time I counted, who are academically motivated and seek to go above and beyond expectations in all that they do. It is a student-led community, and in the past 6 years, since I started at WCU back in 2015, the students have continued to take a larger and larger role in the leadership of our college. And so we felt like that is definitely worth recognizing and celebrating. So this year, thanks to our incredible Brinson Honors College student worker staff and our lead student worker, Patrick Barchett, and our graduate student assistant, Jacob Lohman, hello again, Jacob, who harassed me continuously about this, we have been able to elevate leadership in the Brinson Honors College this year by creating the Dean's Cabinet, which brings Brinson Honors College student leaders together to better serve all of our students and our community. And today's program was created to recognize student leaders who go above and beyond in supporting the Brinson Honors College. So speaking of great student leaders, let us get started with our program. I have the pleasure of introducing today's featured speakers, Shelby Watson-Sanders, an alumna of the Brinson Honors College, class of 2020, and Patrick Barchett, soon-to-be alumnus of the Brinson Honors College, class of 2021.
Hello everybody, my name is Shelby Watson-Sanders, and I graduated during the beginning of this wonderful mask-wearing event that we're having around the world right now. And I am very glad that we're having this ceremony. It means a lot for people to be able to see how their leadership has actually affected, that you worked hard and learned something. It's more than just your ideas and being a part of your community, it's actually changing something, and I think that this pinning ceremony is a great representation of that you've put in the effort to try and make a change where you're at. And so I just want to talk a little bit about what being part of leadership at Western looks like for me and some of my friends. And I think being a part of leadership really makes you connected. I surprisingly know so many people here at Western. I felt seen, I felt at home here at Western, and every time I drive back to Western, it feels like coming home, and I get kind of emotional because I really love my time here at Western because I felt so connected. And I do think that was a part of the leadership roles that I took in the Honors College because my sister, also a Western alumni, she was in the Honors College, but she didn't do any leadership roles because I guess she didn't want to have a busy schedule like me. I guess she wanted to relax a little bit. But she didn't feel as connected as I did, where it's like, oh, you walk down by the fountain and you see like 5 people you know, you can say hi to, you feel at home. She didn't have that sort of connection. I have other friends who've experienced that, where they don't have that same sense of home and connection here. I think that comes with the leadership, it's more than networking. It's creating a, not a family, but like having deep connections with people and seeing like, oh yes, I worked with them on this project, I worked on them this, I know this person from this, and I think that really makes you feel like seen at Western. So I think that's something that a lot of people can struggle with, where they feel like they aren't appreciated or seen. I'm currently doing a PhD in chemistry at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and that's something that I see a lot of my students, is that they don't feel seen. The ones that are in leadership roles, they feel very connected. And the ones that aren't feel kind of lost. And that's why I think this ceremony is great. It makes me really, really happy. I also think being a part of leadership gives people great communication skills, because I know we all take communication class, we all learn the basics, but we don't have to practice it. And I think when you're in leadership, you actually have to communicate. Stand in front of people and say what your idea is, why, and stand for your idea. Stand for like what you believe in and communicate it. And I think that's something that people have a hard time with, especially right now in this pandemic. People are very, I feel, isolated. They don't talk to people as much because they're so far away. They don't want to initiate conversation. I think leadership, getting a part of that, starting a conversation, that really helps with communication. And I think, if you really get connected, everyone in the Honors College, you have great references and great friends. How leadership has helped me since graduating, being an alumni, it makes it easier to talk to your boss, because you've had practice communicating, expressing ideas, and saying when things didn't work out, So when you talk to your boss about something, and you have that practice, don't be as nervous. You can still be nervous, obviously. It makes me nervous a little bit. But you have that practice, you're like, I know how to communicate myself well, I know how to speak for myself and not sound nervous or silly or something. Also make sure you're affirmative in what you believe, but also I think being part of a good leader is listening. So when you think you have the best idea in the room, but you don't listen to other people's ideas to see if maybe you're wrong, that's not being a great leader. And I think that's something that the leadership programs at Western has great opportunities to do, because there's so many different things like ambassadors or the Honors College Board, where everyone gets to express their opinion and everybody gets listened to, that you can learn how to listen, which is another part of communication that I think is really important, that you can learn through these programs. It makes you a more well-rounded person. And that's all I have to say. So, Patrick.
So, as Jill and Shelby have already mentioned, my name is Patrick Barchett. I am the current lead student worker in the Honors College, and I have been for a year and a half now, but I've been working in the Honors College office for about 3 years. I will say I more specialize in interpersonal communications. I'm sorry if the public speaking aspect of myself is not as great. There you go. This job has blessed me with the opportunity to be a leader, but also with the opportunity to see the other half and see what true leadership should be and not just what I think it is. So getting this job and being surrounded by this wonderful staff and the dean and all of you here today has really taught me a lot about what leadership should be. Leadership is the accumulation of knowledge and the ability to communicate that knowledge from your gained experiences. When I was first hired into the office, I was guided by the staff, Hannah, who was the then lead student worker, and my fellow student workers. They were able to share their knowledge with me, the most important being how to communicate with students, their families, and professors, and how to answer any and every question thrown at me, which includes how to find the answers to the questions that I don't already know the answers to. Knowing how to defer knowledge rather than just spewing whatever you think could be possible, and actively seeking out answers are two of the most important attributes of both scholarship and leadership, which I think the Honors College is great in instilling upon all of us. Leadership is also the ability to inspire others to do their best. As leaders, we have the unique position to encourage our peers and colleagues to go above and beyond what they think they can do. When I first started in the Honors College office, I was an extremely quiet person. And to emphasize this point, they were actually making jokes about that this morning when I was being a bit sassy, particularly Meredith. And if you had told me that in just a few short years, I would be completely comfortable with giving the dean and the rest of the staff my completely honest opinion rather than just kind of keeping it to myself. And I probably would have just told you that you were crazy. And so the leaders in the Honors College have consistently shown me and taught me that I can do much more than I thought I could ever do. Through their guidance, I've been able to do the same with others, or at least I have. Shelby's already talked about the importance of leadership even after our time here. However, I want to reiterate that after our time as students and leaders at the Brinson Honors College, we will be leaders in our fields, whether that be academia, public service, or any other career path. Some of these leadership positions will be formal, like department heads or chief position, and some will be less formal, where the people we surround ourselves with trust our experience and judgment enough to give us a place at the discussion table. Throughout our time here, we have developed the knowledge and experience to be leaders wherever we go and in whatever we do. We have the skills to communicate our knowledge and to inspire others to do their best. To recognize this, some of our student leaders and staff have decided to define leadership in a short video that I'll be playing.
Leadership to me is setting a good example for those who are around you. Being a good leader is setting a good example for others.
Leadership to me is setting a foundation for other leaders who grow and be successful.
To me, leadership is love. Leadership is being able to balance the goals of the organization with the priorities of its members.
To me, leadership means going above and beyond to be a role model for others.
Leadership to me is inspiring yourself and others to be the best.
Leadership is seeing the strengths and those you lead and allowing them to use their abilities to make a difference.
To me, leadership is the opportunity to help others while getting involved in others.
To me, leadership is having people act but also being second.
Leadership means always having the courage to stick to your convictions and do the things you know is the right thing.
To me, leadership is striving to make an active everyday difference in our community. Leadership to me is the effort to lead others while bettering the community and strengthening relationships.
Leadership is the willingness to take risks, the willingness to be wrong, and always taking responsibility for what happens on your watch.
To me, leadership is being able to openly and clearly communicate with others. And now I would like to introduce our Associate Dean, April Tanner.
Good afternoon. So before we present the pins, I would like to do a special recognition for Shelby Sanders, who was our alumni speaker for this inaugural event, in recognition of her leadership while she was here on campus. We wanted her to have the very first pin because it was actually her idea to do a pin probably 3 years ago, and I don't even know if she remembers that, but it was kind of her idea to do that, and it kind of, manifested into what you see today. So I just wanted to give her that special recognition. Thank you, Shelby. And I have to say this is a full circle moment for me because both Shelby and Patrick were our students in the Summer Undergraduate Research Program in our CERT. They were students together, and Jim and I both got to teach them, and so the fact that she's the alumni speaker and he's the senior speaker, it's just very emotional and means a lot to me to see them. And I am just so privileged to have this front seat row vision of all you leaders out there. We really thank you for all that you do for the Brinson Honors College on a daily basis. And so now we'll do our presentation of pins, and I think you'll be getting directions from Meredith, who will tee you up. The way we'll make this work is you'll just come across the stage and receive your certificate from the dean. Pick up your pin and exit. Be careful. Watch where you're walking with those heels, ladies, with those stairs, okay? All right. Renee Adamonis. Patrick Barchett. Catherine Betts. Kenna Betts. Maddox Boris. Jordan Chambliss. Auburn Collins. Michaela Cox. Virginia Cross. Madison Curtis. Randy Denham. Nadia Dula. Emily Fine. Danny Gannon. Josh Tiger. Maggie Gray. Caitlin Holman. Kendall Harris. Taylor Mason. Abby Hawley. Connor Henderson. Daniel Hutchinson. Chelsea Jarvis. Dixie Laws. Keaton Massey. Morgan Jesse Mays, Isaiah McAbee, Rachel McGowan, Isabella McMahon, Hannah Nicole Miller, Holly Miller, Melissa Rogers, Leanna Sanford, Charlotte Scott, Jocelyn Stinson, Jack Stuckey, Christina Swinger, Kevin Finnecoe, Madison Welty, Emily Woolman. Everybody wonderful. That was fun. Thank you, April.
I know she was nervous about all the names, right? Still awesome that you all were able to come and do that, and they put me behind the table because I knew I'd want to hug every one of you, so forced me to stay behind the table so I wouldn't. So I know that you were promised today's ceremony would be short and sweet, but I'm the dean and I have the podium, so I get to hold you a few minutes longer, if you will indulge me a little. Wrong page. So, yeah. So what I wanted to say, because I didn't participate in the video, because I was probably just being difficult and not doing what I was supposed to do when I was supposed to do it, what leadership means to me. And when I think about that, there is like a particular moment in time that pops in my head when really my understanding of leadership kind of got flipped on its head, because I understood leadership in a different way. So when I was just like a baby associate dean a few years ago, and I had been appointed as associate dean at my previous institution, and I was walking with our dean, and in that kind of school, the dean is more like a provost, right, chief academic officer. So I was walking with him through one of the academic buildings, and we were just talking, and on the windowsill in the hallway of this building, there was a plate and a bowl and a fork and a glass. And clearly they were from the cafeteria, right? So some student probably, right, I'm making the story up in my head, but probably some student took the dishes out of the cafeteria, took them to class, and then just dumped them in the windowsill in this building, right? And so as that was a pretty common thing at that time for students, and we were constantly getting emails telling the students, please don't take the dishes, please return the dishes, like this was just like an ongoing thing. And so as we were walking down the hall, I'm like, oh, look, the dishes, constant, right, irresponsible students, I would complain, right, and I was criticizing and grumbling and making a comment about how I can't understand why students keep taking the dishes, right, it makes no sense, and it's costly, and when, right? And as walking and talking, the dean shocked me because he stopped, and he was like this three-piece suit kind of guy, right, with a bow tie, and like very very formal kind of guy. And he walks over to the windowsill, and he just grabs up the dishes, right, and he starts carrying the dishes, and I was like, so shocked, like what on earth is he doing, right? And I asked him, like, why are you doing that? And he's like, well, I'm going to take them back to the dining hall. And I was just so shocked by that because I don't even know what else he said. I was so shocked, right? My mind was just like, it hadn't even crossed my mind that it would be my role as a leader to be picking up the dishes that someone had left in the hallway, but that clearly hit me as the true example of leadership. He was a true servant leader, noticing what needs to be done and doing it, even though that wasn't his job, right? Clearly not in his job responsibilities. And not because it's the easy thing to do, right? It was easier for me to complain and easier for me to just keep walking. But it was the right thing to do, right? To demonstrate that servant leadership. Leading with your heart, working to make the community better, and taking the high road. So thinking about that story, it reminds me of a quote that comes from Theodore Roosevelt, and it's a quote that is in Angela Duckworth's book, Grit. So those of you who were in my USI 101 section, you're probably going to recognize this. But the quote goes like this: it is not the critic who counts, right? And that would have been me, right? The critic complaining about the dishes. I'm the one who doesn't count in that scenario, right? It's not the critic who counts. Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or the doer of deeds could have done them better. Oh, how often, right? How the doer of deeds could have done them better, right? That critic, that complainer. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But he who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls, the complainers and the critics, who neither know victory nor defeat. So today, it is so wonderful to be surrounded by all of you, very special group of students, all of you who lift each other up to recognize each other as the doer of deeds. Those who are in the arena, daring greatly as you lead, striving valiantly. Your place will never be with those cold and timid souls, because you are invested in spending yourself in a worthy cause, and brave enough to try, and maybe err, and maybe come up short as you try, but you are doing it. And we, the whole of the Brinson Honors College and the whole of Western Carolina University are better because you are here. So in closing, I also want to give sincere and large thanks, huge, huge thanks To all of the folks who worked to plan today's program and make this happen, starting with Madison Murray, my personal hero, who has pulled this together, Meredith Fortner, who we could not actually function or breathe without Meredith, Patrick Barchett, as I mentioned before, Shelby Watson-Sanders, our special guest speaker, April Talent, our associate dean, Dixie Laws, our student office workers who helped make today possible, and Jordan Chambliss, another one of our student office workers. In the back, Sarah Tysinger, who has done so much to put today's program together, and Jacob Lohman, who helps us every day do everything we need to do. So please join me in thanking all of them for leading the way today to create this new Brinson Honors College tradition. And I also was going to tell you the pins were designed by our Honors College ambassadors, just so that you know that, because that's kind of a special thing. The pins are also part of your graduation regalia, so you'll wear them on your graduation robe when you graduate. And for those of you who aren't graduating for a while, do not lose them, okay? Give them to your mom or something to hold on to for you, in case you're afraid of losing them. All right, next we're going to do a group photo, so please look for Maddie's direction. I think we're not going to do it outside. I think we're going to try to do it up here on stage. Yes? Okay. Thanks again for coming today.